With JJK now ended, I think it's time we decide where Yuji stops when running the gauntlet. We're about to look at each opponent Yuji would face, breaking down his moves, his strengths, and just how far his abilities can carry him through some of the strongest characters in the series. Before we begin, make sure to press that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our daily uploads. Now let's see how Yuji fares in this ultimate test. The first thing I need to mention is that Yuji won't be in the top 10 since he's the one running the JUJUTSU KAISEN gauntlet. So, our top 10 sorcerers will be as follows. Sukuna claims the top spot, followed by Gojo at number 2. Coming in at 3rd is Kenjaku, and Yuta takes 4th place. For 5th, we have Kashimo, and Yuki is at 6th. Maki lands at 7th, with Toji just behind at 8th. In 9th, we've got a tie between Hikari and Urame. And finally, Yorozu rounds out the list at number 10. This should give you a good overview of who's in the top 10 and their rankings. If you don't agree with my top 10, it might mean you haven't been keeping up with Jujutsu Kaisen, but either way, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the rankings. Now let's go over the abilities of Yuji, the one running the gauntlet. Number 6 will be blood manipulation. Well, if you didn't get it from that simple name, then for simplicity's sake, the curse technique really does allow the user to control their blood in ways that far surpass anything normal. It is basically not about moving your blood around, but more so what changes, starting with its makeup to individual cells. What is interesting about blood manipulation is how versatile it can be. The user can do a lot with it. For example, they can take the blood outside their body and turn it into hardened projectiles, which is perfect for mid-range attacks. On the other hand, if such a person focuses on blood inside the body, they can manipulate what would include working the pulse rate and body temperatures. This means that they can virtually energize themselves, which translates directly into better physical performance. Yuji learned blood manipulation during the time skip, in which he ate the death paintings numbered from 4 to 9. This way he managed to unlock this technique, but the control over the former is still quite crude, not really master level. Currently, Yuji uses blood manipulation primarily for the performance of reverse curse techniques, which of course in itself is rather awe-inspiring. But that is not all. He can even learn other curse techniques such as convergence, which he uses in a technique termed piercing blood. Yuji, however, still has a lot to learn for the more advanced stuff. Control isn't yet perfect, and definitely more practice is needed. And in time, his power with blood manipulation will only become greater still. After all, blood manipulation happens to be one of those techniques where what is truly special in Yuji comes into play. Even though he is still figuring it out, he has the potential, and all of us are just waiting to see how far he can go. This is just the tip of the iceberg for Yuji concerning this technique, and it's going to be great seeing where he goes from here. Coming in at number 5 in our list is the reverse curse technique. What does this entail? This technique allows one to change the cursed energy, which in itself is derived from negative feelings, into something positive to heal injuries or even regenerate flesh. Now here is the things. As its name suggests, cursed energy by nature isn't really cut out for healing because it concerns negativity. Well, the reverse curse technique is like flipping that on its head. Think of it as multiplying a negative by another negative to arrive at a positive. This technique doesn't just stop at cuts and bruises, like regrowing blood, bones, flesh, and even organs. If the sorcerer is really talented at this, he could heal from pretty serious damage. Well, here's the rub. Its actual effectiveness really depends on the amount of cursed energy the sorcerer is able to pump out. The more the cursed energy, the faster and the more efficient the healing process will turn out to be. And if you're thinking that's impressive, it gets even deeper. This can also cure the soul. Well, that is on a totally different level and requires one to be able to see the shape of the soul itself. Now, before you think every sorcerer is out there pulling off this move, let me tell you, it's not easy. The reverse curse technique is notoriously hard to master. One major problem which these sorcerers are experiencing with this technique is blood loss from injuries. This technique is supposed to turn cursed energy into blood, but in reality, it's actually very technical and consumes a lot of energy. People like the death painting wombs, who already had the ability to turn cursed energy into blood, actually get a little advantage in studying this technique. This, in a nutshell, means the reverse curse technique is an incredibly complex ability of great power that sets apart the true pros from the rest. It's not about raw power. It's about skill and control in flipping on a dime the cursed energy into something life-saving. One of the more advanced uses of the reverse curse technique involves the restoration of techniques exhausted by domain expansion. You're basically out of luck once your technique gets burned out in a domain expansion. But then again, there are those like Satoru Gojo and Sukuna who made a way. They discovered that if they damage the part of the brain where the technique is inscribed and heal it with the reverse curse technique afterward, they can actually bypass this limit. Though in and of itself, it's something incredibly risky, attempting to heal your brain and your technique simultaneously. That's a one-way ticket to potential brain damage, and it could even knock out your ability to use domain expansion ever again. As for Yuji Itadori, he was able to pick it up during the time skip before the Shinjuku Showdown arc. His secret weapon, he consumes the death paintings numbered 4 through 9, gaining blood manipulation and thereby a gigantic boost in mastering the reverse curse technique. He now had the ability to use less cursed energy, while he could pull off impressive feats of healing. Yuji got so good at this that he could take a direct hit from Sukuna and bounce back almost immediately. Now the thing is, most of the sorcerers capable of this technique can only use it for self-healing. Healing one's own body is way simpler compared to trying to heal another. It's because your body already knows your cursed energy and most of the time will accept it if you want to heal yourself. In the case of other people though, it's a whole different matter. The tricky part is the other person's body might reject your cursed energy. It is like trying to upload a file that is incompatible with the software. Sometimes it simply doesn't work. This incompatibility can make healing others hit or miss depending on how their body reacts to your cursed energy. And that is why, even though some sorcerers can heal others, it's never as reliable as healing themselves. So Yuji mastering this technique is really impressive. Ranked at number 4 in this list, we have Simple Domain. This technique was originally from the Heian era when a Jujutsu sorcerer named Sadam Suna Ashia created it as a kind of domain for the weak. The goal was simple: protect his followers from powerful curses and curse users. Understanding why Simple Domain is so crucial first requires knowledge about something called domain expansion. Domain expansion is a strong move guaranteed to hit and block curse techniques of the target. Then there is the Simple Domain. It was developed to counter the domain expansion. If you use Simple Domain inside someone's domain expansion, neither that automatic hit nor the curse technique inside the domain can affect you. It's like having a shield inside enemy territory, in which case, in the case of a Simple Domain combined with a domain expansion, even the person who has cast the domain expansion is not safe from attack. However, it doesn't seem to be only for defense. The Simple Domain can also be used in an offensive attack. In fact, there are several techniques in the new Shadow style that deal specifically with countering anyone who gets too close to the user's Simple Domain. So it's not just about protection, it's about striking back too. Now Yuji learned about Simple Domain in a pretty unique way. In one time skip event, he switched bodies with Kusakabe, a talented realistic sorcerer. During this time, Yuji was exposed to barrier techniques, including new Shadow style. The first time Yuji actually made use of this was in a battle against Sukuna, the King of Curses. In this fight, Sukuna used his 99-second domain expansion, which was as overwhelming as usual, sending out strikes everywhere on the battlefield. Yuji survived most of these attacks with Simple Domain. His domain did crack toward the end, but at that time, it still held up long enough to protect him from most of the damages. Third on our list is the Shrine Curse technique. Yuji's biggest power-up in the Shinjuku Showdown arc is, without a doubt, the Shrine Curse technique. This moment has been a long time coming. Early on, when Sukuna made Yuji his vessel, Gojo hinted that over time, Yuji's body would absorb Sukuna's cursed energy, almost turning Yuji into a cursed object himself. This setup made it highly likely that Yuji would eventually develop a technique similar to Sukuna's. During the Shinjuku Showdown, Yuji landed a Black Flash on the King of Curses, which unlocked his full potential. This moment led to him awakening the Shrine Cursed technique. Fans of Jujutsu Kaisen know this ability belongs to Sukuna as well, but Yuji's version is unique. Instead of causing indiscriminate damage, Yuji's technique allows him to precisely target what he wants to cut, with scissor-like markings guiding the way. This brings us to our number 2 spot, Soul Dismantle. It is one of the most lethal abilities Yuji has when using his shrine technique. Well, via its name, Soul Dismantle actually cuts directly into the opponent's soul. This technique is so fearsome that not even Sukuna, the king of all curses, can dare it. The challenging part comes when Yuji has to touch his target for it to function. This time, if Yuji makes it with a Soul Dismantle, it does have destructive powers even on a guy as powerful as Sukuna. Yuji has gotten deft enough with the technique that he's been able to aim an attack squarely at the series barrier between Sukuna's and Megami's souls. The ability is just so fine-tuned and deadly. Next up is Domain Expansion, where Yuji unlocked and successfully used this against none other than Sukuna. This means a whole lot for the boy wielding the shrine technique. In the amalgamation of his domain and his shrine skills, Yuji had created his own domain expansion. Now that you understand Yuji's strength and know who's in our top 10 sorcerers, let's determine whether Yuji can successfully run the gauntlet. First up in the 10th place is Yorozu. Now, Yorozu was able to fight 15-finger Sukuna, although it's important to note that Sukuna wasn't even trying. Now let's explain Yorozu's abilities. She can recreate any substance she recognizes except for special cursed tools. The downside, it burns a ton of cursed energy, making it less efficient than most techniques. She also has liquid metal armor, which enhances her strength, speed, and durability for close combat, while still allowing her to control liquid metal for mid-range attacks. Then there's her true spear, a perfect untouchable spear that generates infinite pressure. Add to that her domain expansion, Threefold Affliction, which can use her true spear for sure hit destruction. Now how does Yuji beat her? We can all agree that Yuji's faster and stronger than Yorozu, right? He's got his own domain expansion too, though we don't know how refined it is yet, so if it comes down to a domain battle, it could go either way. But since Yuji is stronger and faster, if he uses his Soul Dismantle technique, that could be the game changer. We know Dismantle can cut through almost anything, and since Soul Dismantle is lethal to reincarnated sorcerers, Yuji could slice through Yorozu's armor and take the win. I'm giving this one to Yuji. Now, moving on to number 9. Yuji versus Hikari or Yorone. Let's start with Hikari. In this battle, Yuji's got the edge, and it comes down to one thing. His soul punches are the perfect counter to Hikari. Hikari's jackpot lets him heal almost instantly, faster than even Gojo during that time. But here's the thing Hikari doesn't actually know how to use. Reverse curse technique. It happens automatically because of the infinite cursed energy he gets from jackpot. Some might argue that he could heal his soul just like he healed from poison, but that's a whole different thing. Healing poison and healing soul damage are on two completely different levels. Even Sukuna, the king of curses, couldn't heal his soul without actually sharing a body with Yuji. Without the ability to heal soul damage, Hikari's jackpots won't save him from Yuji's attacks. Sure, he'll get the boosted stats and rough cursed energy, but Yuji's got his own reverse curse technique and those soul punches that Hikari can't recover from. And if Yuji lands a Soul Dismantle, it's over. That's why Yuji's one of the best counters for Hikari. Now let's move to Urama. The biggest problem Yuji will face with her is her ice. If she traps him in her ice, it's game over in an instant. The only way Yuji can counter this is by using a simple domain, since we know that simple domains can weaken incoming attacks. Plus, we don't even know if Urame has a domain expansion. So in a domain battle, I think Yuji takes the win. If Yuji activates his domain at the start of the fight, he'll have the upper hand since Urama doesn't seem to have any way to counter it. Now, let's move on to number 8, Toji versus Yuji. To start, Yuji is comparable to Maki in terms of strength and speed. And during that 1 month of training, we know Maki got even stronger. This means she may have surpassed Toji, and since Yuji is relative to Maki, he might even be faster and stronger now due to his cursed energy manipulation. Don't forget, Yuji kept up with Maki when they both fought 15-finger Sukuna, and since then, he's gotten even better at using cursed energy to boost his stats. Now, about domain expansion, it won't work on people like Maki or Toji. The real advantage Yuji has over Toji is his reverse curse technique. soul punches, and soul dismantle. Any damage Toji does to Yuji can be healed with reverse curse technique, even if Toji uses the split soul katana. Yuji can perceive and heal his own soul, so he'll recover. Plus, with Yuji's soul punches and dismantle, he could deal real damage to Toji. Some might ask, but isn't Toji's soul stronger? Sure, Toji has a stronger soul because he was summoned into another body and took over it, but that doesn't mean he can defend against soul attacks. And as for the inverted spear of heaven, it won't do anything to Yuji because it only nullifies cursed techniques, and Yuji doesn't rely on many of those. His soul punch isn't a cursed technique, so Toji wouldn't be able to counter it. As for blood manipulation, it's not Yuji's main form of attack. It's mostly punches, kicks, and targeting the soul. And currently, Maki has better scaling than Toji. While Maki managed to sneak attack Sukuna and Maki is considered equal to Toji, there's an argument that Maki might even be above Toji now. She was originally stated to be equal to him after completing her heavenly restriction and awakening, but since then, she's trained for a month and gotten stronger just like everyone else. So it's possible that Maki has surpassed Toji, and with Yuji's improved cursed energy efficiency, Yuji might even be stronger than Maki at this point. So in my opinion, Yuji wins against Toji. Now let's move on to number 7. Maki versus Yuji. As mentioned in Yuji versus Toji, Yuji wins here as well since Maki and Toji are pretty much on the same level. But Maki is a bit stronger than Toji and Yuji is pretty much stronger than Maki. Now here at number 6 is where things get tricky for Yuji because he's up against Yuki. There's not much Yuji can do against her because, let's be real, if Yuki lands just one punch on Yuji, the fight's over. Even when it comes to domain battles, Yuki probably has a more refined domain expansion. We haven't seen it in action, but given her curse technique, we can assume her domain is deadly. She's been a sorcerer for a long time, and over the years, she's likely improved her cursed energy efficiency and refined her domain. It's safe to assume she's at a level where she can match or surpass Yuji in speed and strength using cursed energy. The only thing Yuji can rely on against Yuki is his soul punches and dismantle, but there's something to consider. Yuki is the one who gave Shoso the book on souls, and Shoso passed that knowledge to Yuji. Since Yuki's the source of this information, she might have a defense against Yuji's soul attacks. But let's say she doesn't, and Yuji manages to land those soul punches and dismantles. Well, he wins. But if Yuki has a counter to those, then she'll win. I think it's possible that she has some way to defend against soul attacks because of her deep knowledge of souls. I'm not sure who would win here, so you guys can let me know your thoughts in the comments and explain your reasoning. But let's just say Yuji somehow manages to beat Yuki. Now, we move on to number 5. Kashimo. Yuji versus Kashimo, how does that go? Well, let's be real, Yuji isn't faster than Kashimo. If we look at the fight, hypothetically, even if Yuji tries to land his soul punches or dismantle, Kashimo can just dodge and keep hitting Yuji with his electromagnetic attacks. The problem is, Yuji won't be able to land enough blows to seriously hurt Kashimo. Maybe he gets in a couple, but Kashimo's speed is just on another level. Now, if Kashimo keeps dodging and dodging, eventually Yuji would have to open his domain. Once that happens, the sure hit effect of his domain would take over and Kashimo wouldn't be able to escape. Remember, Kashimo doesn't have a domain expansion or reverse curse technique, and using a simple domain wouldn't help much. Simple domains just aren't strong enough to hold up against a full domain expansion for very long. Yuji did something similar against Sukuna. When Sukuna kept dodging Yuji's soul dismantle, Yuji realized he wasn't going to land a clean hit. So he opened his domain, letting the sure hit effect do the work. If Kashimo tries the same strategy of dodging, Yuji would just do what he did against Sukuna, open his domain and win. The only way Kashimo could take the fight is if he manages to hit Yuji with a supercharged electromagnetic wave before Yuji even thinks about activating his domain. That kind of attack could erase Yuji before he gets the chance to defend himself. When it comes to Kashimo versus Yuji, the fight could really go either way. Kashimo has the speed and power to give Yuji a hard time, but Yuji's domain expansion gives him a huge advantage, especially since Kashimo doesn't have one. If Kashimo did have a domain expansion, he could probably defeat Yuji, but without it, I'd give the win to Yuji. Now let's move on to the 4th spot, Yuta. There's no real debate here. This is where Yuji's run ends. There's just no way he beats Yuta. Yuta has a more refined domain expansion that completely outclasses Yuji's. And on top of that, he's faster. Plus, Yuta has Rika, so if Yuji were to fight him, it would be a 2v1 situation. With Yuta and Rika working together, Yuji doesn't stand a chance. So this is where Yuji's streak stops. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about these top 10 rankings and where you think Yuji would stop. Anyway, please tell me your thoughts in the comments below, and please subscribe to my channel and turn on all post notifications so you don't miss any daily uploads.